It's a joy to come to work and see these men and their progress from when walking in from the Greyhound bus station to the graduation ceremony and knowing that they're going to have their own bed, they're going to have their first paycheck in probably a very long time, and they are tax-paying, self-sufficient members of society once more.
Welcome to another episode of the Impact and the Intersection podcast, brought to you by the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business. I'm your host, Analisa Wade. I'm a second-year full-time MBA student here, and I'm really excited to talk to you about Georgia Works today. We have the CEO, Darlene Schultz, and she's going to really walk us through what Georgia Works does, her examples of leadership, and a few other things that we'll get to. Darlene, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, I'm very excited to talk to you and really learn more about your background, Georgia Works. I heard you've been doing some amazing work there, and I'm excited to get into it.
Thank you.
So I guess first, as this is an Impact Intersection podcast, I like to always ask, what does leadership mean to you? And how has maybe your leadership style evolved over the years?
Leadership means to me the joy of each day coming into the office and hopefully inspiring not only the program participants in the Georgia Works program, but also my employees as well. I have learned to modify my leadership style over the years, be a little bit more adaptable, listen a little bit more, and not dig your feet in the sand ever. Just be open to new ideas, and they'll always come to you.
Well, let's get into Georgia Works. Like, what is Georgia Works? What do you do there? And, maybe a little bit about the mission, too.
Georgia Works is first and foremost a workforce development program for men. We were founded in 2013 by a retired wealth management consultant, Bill McGann, and he wanted to give back to the city of Atlanta, so he went on a mission to figure out what that would look like. So he was sent up by City of Atlanta leaders to New York City, and he checked out a program called Ready, Willing, and Able, which had been around for about 20 years at the time. And he came back and said, that's exactly what I want to do here in Atlanta. So we were replicated after Ready, Willing, and Able up in New York City. Men must come into the program clean, sober, and drug-free, and they have to agree to stay that way the entire time they're in the program, hopefully for the rest of their lives. The only restrictions are they cannot be a registered sex offender, and they cannot be on any government income like SSI or SSDI. And again, the program lasts 6 to 8 months. We are providing them with case management services, wraparound services that would include transporting them to AA or NA meetings. Certified addiction counselors are on staff. So we're providing them with all the resources that they need to really re-engage with society. Most of our men come from the streets, directly from homelessness, and many of our men also come from prison and jail. And so we take a long time with them. The program lasts 6 to 8 months because we want to make sure that they're ready to re-engage in society as a tax-paying citizen once more.
Wow. And what does that transition look like? If you said most of the participants come from off the streets or homelessness or from prison to, you have to be clean, you can't do certain things. How do you successfully transition and onboard?
Well, the first 30 days are really critical for us, and our retention rate has not been very good for the first 30 days because many men, they want to feel like they're ready, but they might not be. So if we can get them past that 30 days, our retention rate skyrockets to 80 to 85%. But the men really come in with a willingness to want to change their lives. Is this the first time that they've tried to make a change in their lives? Maybe not. But if it's the third or the fourth time, I'm willing to give them the help that they need to cross the finish line to be a graduate.
Wow. And what does a team like your team, I guess, look like in order to support such, an impactful community?
We have everybody is assigned a case manager. We have a director of mental health services. And during that first 30 days, Analisa, we are making sure that they get a mental health evaluation, a physical, a TB test. We're putting them through 4 or 5 classes a day, doing anything from Dress for Success, 12 Steps to Be a Better Man, financial acumen. We send them down to our bank, and they figure out how to open a savings account. How much should you be saving? So it's as many resources as we can provide them to, and it's on a daily basis. And we are very, very structured at Georgia Works. They must follow a lot of rules. Sometimes that's very difficult in the beginning, but for example, everybody has to be back on campus and on our floor at the Gateway Center by 8 o'clock every night. It's 11 o'clock lights out, up at 6 o'clock to do chores around the building, and no passes for the first 30 days. We found that structure is really helpful to get them on a good path towards recovery.
So in the beginning, you have pretty much like a day, like daily routine and daily schedule to kind of just get you acclimated to what you're getting into.
Exactly. And about 14 days, we put them in on what we call our street team, and that's the core of our business right now. So we have about 20 contracts with neighborhoods and around Metro Atlanta, City of College Park, City of Atlanta, and we put them in our Georgia Works blue shirts and blue hats, and we send them out with our operations team, and we are beautifying the whole area of Atlanta. All over. And so we're making sure, and we're saying, walk 3 blocks this way, turn right, pick up all the trash, and come back to the van. We're making sure that they understand what work looks like these days. And so that's their work for, like I said, started at about 14 days to about 45 days. And then after that, they are assigned to a work assignment for one of the partners that we are partnering with. We have about 15 different agencies around town. The main one right now is Georgia World Congress Center.
Oh, wow.
And so we put people on 3 shifts there. And then the goal is that one of these organizations that we're partnering with will eventually hire our men as a full-time employee with them.
Wow. Okay. So what does success look like? So you kind of walked us through a little bit about like, this is the actual process in the program. These are the steps you go through. But what would you say this is a success story? This defines success.
The definition of a graduate for Georgia Works is they've been in the program again 6 to 8 months. They secured that full-time job offer. While they've been in the program, we have provided them transitional housing. And as they earn their wage in the program, we have taken $50 a week out for their savings account. So when they come to us and say, I've got my full-time job, and we say, great, here's your savings account, and we help them find housing. And we figured out very early on that even though the graduates had that full-time job offer, they were still struggling to find housing because landlords were reluctant to rent to them because of their background. And so Mr. McGann, in all of his wisdom, founded another nonprofit called Housing Tonight, which has since merged in with Georgia Works, but we currently now have about 12 houses that the men that we lease, and so it's a shared living arrangement, but each man has his own room, and you share the common area and the kitchen, but it keeps their rent very, very affordable. So we have about 75 beds of permanent housing for them. And then we have an executive director of our housing division, and he not only collects rent, but he keeps up with the repairs on the houses, but he also offers some aftercare services for our guys, because we don't want them to be just out there on their own. And if they still need these resources that they're used to, they can come back to Georgia Works, or we send our case managers to them. And like I said, Tony is very good at providing help after they graduate.
This is really awesome. So they get the training, they get help during the program. There's a whole campus. After that, hopefully they find a role, and then there's still support to help with housing and everything. So it's like a complete full service program that you guys have there.
Start to finish. And so we have graduated over 1,000 men from our program since inception. And for every man that we have graduated, Analisa, we have saved, you and I, as taxpayers in the state of Georgia, over $40,000 per man, because they are not taking up a Grady bed. They're not moving slowly through the judicial system with a public defender, waiting a trial date, taking up a bed at Rice Street. So it's a very it's a wonderful program, but when you put the monetary value on what we have saved the state of Georgia, it's really incredible.
Yeah, and you're changing life. So you're saving people money, you're changing lives along the way. Like, how did you all figure out there was a need? Because I know you said that this was replicated from a program in New York, but how did you identify that we actually need this in Atlanta?
HUD mandates that all the major cities do a point-in-time count, okay, every January. And the numbers are they're not accurate, but it gives you a starting point. So the point-in-time count in 2013 showed that there was about 3,000 unsheltered people on the streets of Atlanta. And then, so all that gets wrapped up into how many people are in shelters or in transitional housing, blah, blah. And so the numbers always come out sometime in May. But we figured out that 70% of those unsheltered, of that number of 3,000 of unsheltered on the streets were men. So we decided to start with the men's program. And Mr. McGann wanted to make sure that we were doing something different. Okay, so that's why he mandated the clean, sober, and drug-free mandate for the men to come into the program. But what that did on the flip side is that does not allow us to receive any federal funding for what we do. And that's because we do not practice the housing first approach. And that means that if somebody is sitting on the steps of the Gateway Center and an outreach worker comes to him and says, hey, I'll put you up in this hotel temporarily until we can find you permanent housing. Do you want to go? And the man's going to say, sure. And they go, what, do you have a mental health issue? And he says, yes, I'm bipolar and I'm addicted to cocaine. And they go, don't worry, we'll deal with that later. Okay, but we're going to put you in housing first, and we will offer you up services down the road. Whereas Georgia Works says we want to address these issues along with providing you housing. We want to address these issues at the same time and to help you overcome these barriers and the situation that likely got you into homelessness in the first place. And by dealing with those straight up front, you have a much better chance of not returning to prison, jail, or homelessness.
Yeah. So going that route, like, let's talk about some challenges, because that sounds like one already with like a funding, you're deciding to prioritize their health and well-being first. What challenges have you all experienced along the way of building this? It's been, what you said, almost 13 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2013, so we're at about 12 and a half. It has been very challenging. And the frustrating thing for me, and I'm sure you were going to get to this down the road, but Housing First is an amazing approach, okay? And it's been around for a long time, and the data backs up that it really, truly works, okay? So the challenge for us is just making sure that people in Washington, people in the governor's office understand that there are other answers to solving the issues of homelessness, okay? And our workforce development program is one of those, okay? So we can manage to raise about 70% of our operating needs from the upcharge that we bill. So we pay our guys one rate and we bill Georgia World Congress Center another rate. So we can raise about 75% of our operating income that way, but then we must go and fundraise for the rest.
Yeah.
So, but the challenge is just getting, I don't want to call it recognition, but validation that what we do is another answer to help.
And then what about, do you have any specific examples that you can use, maybe not mention any names or anything like that, but of someone or people who have been through the program that are currently doing well out of the entire time that you all have been working?
My shining example, and he won't mind if I say his name, is Adolphus Chandler, okay? He was the third graduate of our program back in 2013, and he was 55 years old at the time. He had been in and out of jail 95 times, okay?
What?
Third graduate from the program, and we hired him to be the intake coordinator at Georgia Works. And when he got his first paycheck, that was his first legitimate paycheck of his life.
Wow.
And I mean, the stories that I hear, and I love to do intake. If I'm in the office, I'm going to be a part of intake. So, I mean, men literally walk in the front door of the Gateway Center and say, I'm interested in Georgia Works. And they first must pass a urinalysis test. We test for 13 different things. And if they pass that, we do an intake interview. But the stories of these men that you hear, it breaks my heart. And, I mean, 95% of them it's a sad story, estranged from their mom and dad, homeless since they were in 10th grade, went to work because their mom had 4 other kids to feed, so they had to drop out of high school in 10th grade. So the stories are varied, and each one is different. But every person that comes in the door, I want to try to help. So, but Adolphus is like I said, is my shining star because he's still employed with us. So,
Wow. No, that's really great. I love to hear that. So you like the intake. That's one amazing success story, and he was the third graduate.
mm-hmm,
Like,
mm-hmm.
okay. And then do you have any other like recent success stories as you all have grown too?
Steve McGoy. I keep talking about my employees, but Steve McGoy he started at Georgia. He graduated from Georgia Works, and he started about the same time I did, 5.5 years ago. And he is now the director of operations for Georgia Works, and he has done an amazing job. He's doubled our street team revenue, but somebody and he graduated from a prestigious high school in upstate New York, okay, and just found his way down the wrong path, okay, but found Georgia Works, thank goodness, and we've been able to make him a superstar at Georgia Works.
Yeah, and that speaks a lot to the culture that you must have at Georgia Works, that men coming through the program actually want to stay and maybe not even look at going to one of your partners, but they actually want to continue to build and do the work that changed their lives.
They do. We have a lot of men. We have a lot of our alumni that come back and speak to our men with their success stories, and like so we've got 1,000 success stories, and so it's I love to come back and have these men say, I started out at Westview Cemetery, and now I am the site supervisor, and that is so motivational to hear someone who's been through the program tell the men what they can look forward to.
And I guess the last thing I really wanted to ask you about is, can you tell me a little bit more about your partnerships? I know you mentioned the Georgia World Congress Center, but are there other partnerships you'd like to mention, and like maybe how you go about solidifying those?
Well, we are always seeking out new partnerships because we want to make sure our guys are working all the time. And so we have grown very organically since the beginning. So we started out, and I'm focusing again on our street team work, but we've started out with one contract with the city of Atlanta, and we now have grown to where we are probably in every council district. Okay, and Liliana Bakhtari is one of our biggest fans, and we went to work for her. She then sends us to her Amir's district, and it just grows organically like that. So we have a lot of friends on the city council. That's my favorite partnership because we because we do so much for them. But we have great partnership with Mercy Care because that's where we send them to our men to get their mental health evaluation and physical, and if they need some ongoing therapy, they provide that. We have a great partnership with Grady Hospital because that's where they go if we have an emergency situation, and at 10 Park Place to further get therapy if they need it. So there. Yeah.
Wow, you really have built like a robust system that seems like it's just working flawlessly. I love that.
Well, the future for us looks very bright because we have managed to raise $15 million through a capital campaign, and we have purchased a brand new facility on Auburn Avenue, 250 Auburn Avenue, the Oddfellows building, and we are for the first time going to be able to have our own place, move out of the Gateway Center. So we will move our housing division, our corporate offices, and our program into this gorgeous 40,000 square foot historic building, and that's going to happen this summer. But I've been telling the men that I said, it's like you're going to get an upgrade. And I was saying the Ritz-Carlton, but I've downgraded it to Marriott because I don't want them to have chandeliers or anything. But it's going to be, but each man is going to have, it's going to be a facility that will house 165 men when it's all said and done. And we'll have 54 individual units, a large bunk room for the men to be in when they first arrive. But the beauty of it is, it has 165 windows, and that makes me so happy because there are no windows where I am right now.
Goodness, you have to have windows.
Somebody said, "Are you gonna? What's your budget for blinds?" And I go, "We're not putting one blind up. It's gonna be sunshine all day long."
Yes. Now, one thing I didn't touch on as we begin to wrap is a little bit more about your story. So you touched on, you were. Your husband was like, "Oh, do you think they'll hire a woman for this all-men program?" But you never really talked about why Georgia Works for you. Like, what was the initial spark?
Well, I've been on the board of directors for Georgia Works since the beginning, so I met Bill McGann very early on, and I saw the potential of Georgia Works, and so when he, in this board meeting in 6 years ago, said, I'm ready to move Georgia Works into a different direction, I mean, I raised my hand and I said, I really want that job, because I saw that Georgia Works is something that can be replicated all over the state, okay?
Yeah.
And so the opportunity to carry forward that vision, move out of the Gateway Center, and the one thing that I did ask as part of my hire was to eventually establish a Georgia Works for Women. So we are pretty far down the road with 2 pilot programs, one to be stood up by the end of the year. But to be able to help so many men,
Yeah.
it's just you and to hear all their stories and to be a part of their lives, to be a part of their, they call me Mommy D now. I mean, it's just it fills my heart with joy to be able to do that on a day-to-day basis. And I was in the corporate world for, I'm going to date myself, for 25, 30 years. And I came home one night and I looked at my husband and I said, I don't need your permission, but I very much like your blessing I'm going to quit and find something in the nonprofit world. And we didn't talk for a couple months, but now it's, no, but I'm joking. But now here I am, and I have no plans to stop anytime soon. And I really, it's a joy to come to work and see these men and their progress from when walking in from the Greyhound bus station to the graduation ceremony, and knowing that they're going to have their own bed, they're going to have their first paycheck in probably a very long time, and they are tax-paying, self-sufficient members of society once more.
You're doing some very impactful work.
Thank you.
How, because you said you were in corporate, and how has being a part of Georgia Works full time, how has that impacted you?
It has made me a different person. It's made me a more patient person. I have adopted the thing that's written on my whiteboard is treating everyone with unconditional positive regard.
Yeah.
And so I've taken that into my own life. I feel like I'm a better mom, wife, auntie, because of these stories that I have heard for the past 6 years.
I love that. Is there anything else that you want our listeners to know about you or about Georgia Works before we close this out?
Just support us when you can. Look forward to inviting anyone who would like to come to our hopefully July opening of our new facility, and you'll be amazed at what it looks like and how happy these men are going to be to have our own spot.
Yeah, and congratulations on the new facility. That's huge. And you said July, 2025?
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Yeah,
around the corner.
It's been a while coming though, but
Yeah.
It's amazing. And but if the listeners want to drive by and look at it, you can't miss it, because we had to take out every window framed, all 165 window frames, and paint them the original color of orchard green. So it really, the whole building just really, it pops and stands out. And what a great place to be in the Auburn corridor, which holds so much history for the city of Atlanta.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Darlene. This was great, and it's lovely learning about Georgia Works.
Thank you, Analisa. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Impact and the Intersection podcast. We invite you to rate, like, and subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Have a great day.